Okay, our cold open question for today. It's going to go along the theme of what we're discussing. If you could travel to any period in time, what would it be? Now, here's the thing. You only have one trip there and one trip back. So it's not like you can be like, oh, I'm going to go here, then here, then here. Like, it's just one and one. You do have the assurance that you will survive the trip. So, like, if you wanted to go to, like, see some great medieval battle or something, or dinosaurs or whatever, like, you can go do it because you will survive. Yeah. You'll come back in one piece. But, yeah, it's just once there,
all right.
You're there for however long you want to be, and then you come back. So, yeah.
However long you want to be. All right. Is this like you go to the future or the past and you're there for 10 years and then you come back and you're yourself? Or how are you still aged those 10 years? That's a good question.
Let's say you've aged. Yeah, like you've aged.
Okay, yeah. So continuity remains the same.
Yes.
All right, so there's consequence
there. Got to make it.
All right, that's cool. All right.
Got to make it interesting. So.
Yeah.
All right. Think about it, and
all right.
See you in just a minute.
Your local video store card.
A comic book in your back pocket.
Games with no tutorials.
Music you had to discover.
And drinking water straight from the hose.
These are the things us millennials remember fondly. We are the Jennings brothers.
Join us after the streetlights come on
as we race our bikes from the top of the hill
right down memory lane.
Exchange those quarters because this podcast takes tokens.
Okay, I gotta tell you, before we get this started, last night, Darth Vader came down from the planet Vulcan and told me that if we don't record a Back to the Future episode of This Podcast Takes Tokens, that he'd melt my brain. That's what he said. I don't know. That's the best George McFly I could think of. I don't know. Yes, we are discussing Back to the Future, my absolute, positive, 1,000% favorite movie of all time. It is... Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
You know, I gotta say, I was thrown a little bit by your intro only because like I didn't know where you were going with it, with the recent passing of James Earl Jones. I was like... Wait, what is this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I got what you're doing now. Okay. Yeah. So it kind of takes on a little bit of a minute difference.
Vulcan.
Yes.
We'll get to that. Back to the Future released... I didn't realize this was a 4th of July movie. Released on July 3rd, 1985 by Universal Studios. Had a budget of $19 million. Earned $380 million. So...
19, that's it?
Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Absolute blockbuster.
Absolutely.
Yeah, only 19 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
They
incredible.
did a lot with that 19 million.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Which I DeLorean.
Guess a lot of that was probably half the budget. But of course, starring Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Leah Thompson, Crispin Glover, Thomas F. Wilson as Biff, Claudia Wells as Jennifer, and James Tolkien as Principal Strickland. Excellent casting in this movie. Like,
all around.
I think everybody in this movie is, even to just the guys in Biff's little gang, like Billy Zane.
Yeah.
Billy Zane's in there. And just Goldie Wilson.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I'm glad they didn't stick with Stoltz in the Marty McFly role. I don't think it would have worked.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. Yeah, it was. So I'm going to try to get through this without just giving nothing but factoid after factoid. But yeah, they were going to, originally, they cast Eric Stoltz, who, I'm trying to think of, Pulp Fiction. He was in Pulp Fiction when Uma Thurman is having the overdose. He's the one that, is he the one that stabs her? I think,
he's the boyfriend.
Yeah.
The dealer or whatever. He's
also in, not The Mask, but Mask, with Cher, about that kid that had the deformed face. He played the kid. But yeah, they actually have footage that they shot of him doing this.
I think, wasn't there like a little bit of controversy because they still used some of the just like his backside or something like that in one of the scenes?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, they ended up, I looked up, I'm like, why did they recast him? I mean, I can't picture anybody else but Michael J. Fox in this role, but
he just didn't fit.
He didn't. I guess that's what Bob Gale was saying, one of the directors and the writers. He was saying that he just didn't have, like, Michael J. Fox had a comedic edge to him. That
he was their number one pick. He's who they wanted originally too.
Yeah.
But he was busy with Family Ties.
He was. And actually, when he was shooting this, I was reading one of his books, and he was talking about how he would get up like super early in the morning, and he would go shoot Family Ties, and then he'd get picked up, and they'd go and they would work on Back to the Future, and he'd get back to his apartment. He had a studio apartment, and he'd like eat or whatever, and he'd take a shower, and his apartment was so small, he didn't have a sink, like a proper sink. So he would be washing his dishes with him while he was taking a shower, in the shower. But yeah, that's what he did for like a whole summer. He would shoot Family Ties, then go shoot that Back to the Future at night, and
I heard he only got like a couple hours of sleep most nights, and they were having to like carry him out of his bed because he was so exhausted in some places. Yeah. That's just great. I mean, like, you can't tell. Like, he doesn't look like it.
No. You know, Michael J. Fox really is just one of my favorite actors. I can't think of anything I've really seen him in that I haven't liked. I don't know. He's just always, he's just always good and everything. I love Family Ties. Like, that's something that I used to watch a lot of. And
good classic sitcom.
Yeah. So yeah, he's good. He's great in this. I mean, like I said, I just can't envision anybody else doing this. It just wouldn't be the same.
They keep talking about like, I don't know if you see them, but they got all those like Back to the Future 4 trailer and all this other fan casting and stuff like that for the fourth one. And I'm like, don't do it. Don't. Like, you can't replace them. You can't recast them. I don't know how you're going to do any sequel to this and do it any kind of justice. Like, this is the perfect trilogy, and just leave it alone.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. To me, everything in this trilogy, and we're really going to focus on just, the first one today, but we'll have to, in discussing it, we are obviously going to have to, you can't discuss one episode without discussing all three, I feel like, at some point. But
we'll reserve as much as we can for future episodes.
But yeah, I mean, everything just wraps up so nicely. I feel like that they just it's a trilogy. Like, it doesn't need. Have you read any of the comics, or like watched they had a little cartoon series?
They had the cartoon series. Stuff. I used to watch the cartoon series a little bit. That was entertaining. I don't really remember. It seemed like it was about like Doc Brown and his family, and they lived kind of like out of time, and they would just like go on all these wild adventures and doing in different time periods. It was kind of like a reverse. I seem to remember it being kind of like a reverse Bill and Ted. Instead of like going and bringing historical figures to them to learn, they were taking their kids around to educate them about historical events, and then they would get into some trouble or something, and they had to fix it or whatever. And then I did read some of the comics. I have more of the comics than I've actually read. I was getting them for some time, and I read them for a short time, but then continued to collect them with the aspiration of wanting to go back and read them, which, as we all know, in adulthood, aspirations and execution are rarely aligned. But, I do have I've read some of them, and in the ones that I read, it was starting out about like the relationship between Marty and Doc and like how they met and got started. It was like before the time machine type stuff. It was setting up it was doing a little bit of world building. And then there was another one that was like, it was all about like Biff getting his hands on the time machine and running amok.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was some, I don't consider it canon. It's like the cartoon series. It's just like, it's nice, like alternate universe type stuff.
Yeah. And they did Telltale Games did a little series too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It was after 3, and if I remember right, it's been a while since it's been years since I played it when it first came out. But if I remember right, Marty, I can't remember what he's doing. He's doing something. It's after Back to the Future 3, and the DeLorean shows back up. Yeah. Like it had just been on a timer, or been, somebody, I can't, so he's trying to like figure out, like he's looking at the time circuits and trying to figure out like
who and where.
Yeah, how it got there and all that. So, I don't know, it was kind of fun to see them like bring the DeLorean back. But yeah, I'm like you, like really, like I don't need all that stuff. Like it was okay, but I don't really feel like I need more Back to the Future. And I think it's because like would I like to see more of Marty and Doc together?
Absolutely.
Yes. Because to me that is like one of the best cinema relationships ever. Like as that builds throughout the series and even in this one, like when Doc when Marty first convinces Doc that he's from the future and it just how everything builds. I would like to see more. I would like to see, canon of how they met and everything, because it is a little weird, it's a like 50-some-year-old guy and a 17-year-old kid that are, hanging out. But I
think he's older than 50 because like it was 1950s and he was probably 30. Yeah. And then you go forward another 30 years, he had to have been probably at least 60.
60s,
but
yeah.
I think at the time, the actor was only like 45.
Yeah.
Christopher Lloyd, he was like early 40s, if that. And they aged him up quite a bit, which then they, in 2, we see that they kind of like walk that back a little bit with regeneration or whatever.
Doc.
Yeah, he looked great. Yeah. Which I always, watching that growing up, I always thought he looks exactly the same. I don't see the difference.
Yeah.
Like they put some stuff on him and he took it off. I don't get it.
Yeah. But I don't think it needs that too. I don't need to see another movie. If Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis came back and said, we are writing and directing a Back to the Future 4, if that was the case,
and they were given carte blanche to do what they want,
yes, I would watch it.
No interference. I would watch it
Yep.
with an open mind.
Yep.
But I can't imagine any good follow-up. Any follow-up that would be worth doing at this point. Maybe 20 years ago, sure.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, unless you do something that's completely like, the only character you could really continue using is the time machine itself, the DeLorean.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings me to one of my questions. From the beginning of the movie, from the beginning of this movie to the end of the third movie, how long or how old do you think that DeLorean got? Because I think my theory is it's been running around in time a lot longer than they have. And I think that's where you can get a sequel out of it, is by somebody else getting their hands on the time machine and doing whatever, and then leaving it back in place for them to come across and continue on their journey.
Yeah.
But yeah, the time machine's really the only character that you could bring back.
Yeah.
I think all the other characters have aged out of it, or wouldn't be as interesting to follow up on. Maybe Goldie Wilson. But other than that,
yeah. No, I agree. And they've interviewed Michael J. Fox about it, and he said if we were to make this now, like I would have to play Doc. Like there's like you can't. And I don't want to see Michael J. Fox as Doc.
No.
Like Christopher Lloyd is Doc Brown.
Yeah.
Leah Thompson is Lorraine McFly. Like, yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. But another relationship that I really enjoyed watching, and it didn't strike me out of all the times I've watched this, because I used to watch this when I was in high school. I'd watch this. It was literally every week. I would watch the trilogy, and I've watched through it with the commentary from Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, and so I this. When I say this is my favorite movie of all time, I mean it definitely is. But it struck me watching it last night, and I'm like, I really like the chemistry between Crispin Glover and Michael J. Fox, and I am so upset that we didn't get that in any of the sequels. And I know why. Like, Crispin was wanting too much, and he didn't really like the script of the second one, and that's why he asked for more money. But gosh, I love them together. Just where they're hanging up, they're in the back of George's house, and they're hanging up the laundry, and they're talking about what they're going to be doing that night. And he's like, "Oh, you're going to touch her on her?" And he's like, "No, George, I'm not going to do that." And
see, this is where I'm going to contradict. This is my only problem with the whole movie is Crispin Glover. Don't get me wrong. I think he can do fine most of the time, but there's certain points in this movie where he's just too much into he's too much of a method actor or something. I don't know what it is, but it's like the way he delivers lines sometimes it really grades on me. When it's just it's hard to explain. It's kind of the breathy way he does things, where he's like, I can't think of,
has brought me to
something like that. It's a little hammy, a little much, and it's just very I don't know. It feels like he's taken a lot of acting classes. He's learned a lot of technique. He's studied intensely. And then this is the final exam, and the teacher's like, "All right, write me a 1-page essay on acting." And he's turned in a 3-volume novel, and it's just too much. He's just going way too far, way too hard. And he's just overthinking the character, I think, in my opinion. And he goes a little too far for me. That's
interesting.
That's my take on him.
Well, I don't get that from it, but I'm not going to say you're I'm not going to say you're wrong.
It's an opinion.
Yeah. That's an interesting take on it, though. Yeah.
Every time I watch it, it's a little more, and I don't like it a little less.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I gotta know. Yeah. In the original story, he's in the tree. He falls out of the tree. He gets hit by the car.
Creep. Yeah.
Yeah. Lorraine falls in love with him, Florence Nightingale syndrome and all that. Is this a known tree that kids go up and peep on Lorraine out of? Because whenever Michael gets hit by the car, the dad yells out, "Another one of these damn kids fell in front of my car."
Yes.
Another one. This is something that happens on a regular basis.
So
does she not know to shut her blinds? I don't understand.
The way they've built up Lorraine,
she enjoyed it.
I think she enjoyed it. I think she did. Now I feel like that clearly her character changes. They both do. Her and George both do, because of the changes in the events of the timeline.
Yeah.
But I feel like and they even allude to it in the original timeline, where she's
Grumpy.
she's like telling the kids, don't, she's grumpy, but she's like telling the kids, don't be doing all this stuff. And you can just see like, oh, this has got to be the way you live. Yeah. Yeah. I think Lorraine is totally into it at that, at that point. I really do think she is.
She's a little repressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Teenage repression, and then the original timeline. Her and George get together. She works out a bit of that repression with him, but George loses his. He doesn't have that. He maybe loses his romantic bone, if you will, and stops trying as hard, or doesn't put forth the right effort in the right places, or whatever, and she gets a little jaded and they grow a little distanced. But whenever Marty's able to step in and kind of like prod him along and give them a stronger foundation for which to build that on, and some confidence, then George,
that's what he needed.
Yeah. Then with the confidence, he can maintain that that romantic spark, and they can maintain that relationship and feed each other back and forth as they should. But that was just, the whole time travel thing creates such a paradox.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's it. Like when I say like this is my favorite movie, I know it's not the perfect movie. There are plot holes.
Favorite is not perfect
in this. What's that?
Favorite is not perfect.
No. I mean, you could poke holes in the plot on this everywhere, because any time travel movie you can poke holes in it.
Yeah, but it's easy to poke holes into it because nobody's ever traveled through time that we know of.
Right. Yeah. So it's not a perfect movie, but it's my perfect movie.
That's right.
If that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, George, before the timeline changes, he's very self-conscious, and he lets people walk all over him. So that scene when after Biff is at the house and was drinking and driving and he wrecks the car or whatever, and then he leaves, the next thing you see is the family's eating dinner and Jackie Gleason is on TV. So George pours the peanut brittle into the bowl and he hands it over to Marty. There is a deleted scene where they were just using it to show how much of a pushover George is, but they thought it was too much.
I remember this.
Yes, he has. I don't know if it was like Girl Scouts or somebody comes to the door and they're selling peanut brittle, and he just ends up like
buying a bunch of peanut brittle.
Because he doesn't. He wants to avoid confrontation, so that's why the peanut brittle's there, and they're just just eating it for dinner.
Confrontation.
Yeah. The car, Dad. Do you have any idea how much I needed that car?
Man. And
how about the
Biff
music?
Such a Yahoo!
I
can't imagine. It baffles me that he continues to be a part of his life and just leech off of George the way he does. But I guess as long as George is willfully giving it over, I suppose. I wonder what happened to all his buddies, his little cronies, if they're working with him or what, because they come back in the second one, they're like, he's hired him or whatever, they're his hired hands, but are they maybe his underlings wherever he works? What does he do for a living? It doesn't seem like
he's a supervisor somewhere. I don't know. He's George's supervisor. But Biff, I like okay. I don't like Biff.
Yeah, but he's a good villain.
He's a great villain. And Thomas Wilson just plays him perfectly.
Oh, absolutely. That's probably one of my favorite castings in the movie.
Oh yeah, he's so good. And he
really comes into it in the third one. The third one is where he just he goes he nails it in the third one. That's like I said, my favorite casting is probably his, because just all the way through. Like every version of Biff or Tannen that he plays is just perfect. And I think I remember in one of the commentaries, didn't they say that he did the voice of his own mom in like the second one, where she's like, "Biff, where are you going?"
Oh, his grandma. Yeah.
So like he plays every Tannen throughout history.
Yes, he does. Yeah,
which is just great.
Yeah, and I like that they. So he's living with his grandmother.
Yeah,
and it kind of adds another layer to him because you add some mystery, but like, are his parents dead, or did his parents just like up and leave him? And that
I think his mom left. At some point, like ran off with somebody else to get away from his dad, and his dad's in jail. That's my theory.
Yeah, and that's like then if you look into it that way, you're like, oh, I can totally see why he's just this. He's mad at the world, you know, and he's just that's the way he deals with it. He's just a jerk to everybody.
But like all of that he's dealing with in his world, and all it took to get him straight was one punch to the face. And he's just suddenly just this little meek character that just can't stand. Oh, I'll put 2 coats on it, I swear.
Yeah.
That's all it took, just one good punch.
Yeah.
Nobody in his entire life ever hit him like that.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
Yeah. Marty socked him real good there in the diner, like, know. But yeah, I don't know. And then after George just lays into him, everyone's like, "Hey, did you think about running for class president?" Like it's like, and I'm watching that and I'm like, okay, either like this is like way over the top, or everybody hated Biff that much. They're just nobody like, finally
had the gall to say anything.
Yeah.
Like you said, Marty hit him earlier in the diner. It didn't seem to have the same effect. Like maybe it's two punches is what it. Two generations of punching is what it took.
Yeah. I don't know. George had some heat on that. He was mad.
He was.
Just.
That was generations of McFly coming at him.
That was. That's such a great scene.
Yeah.
And Lorraine's just like, "You're breaking his arm. You got to stop." And I don't know. I love everything about this movie. I love everything about it. And I love that turning point for George where he's just, he opens up that door. He's expecting Marty. And Biff says, "You got the wrong car, McFly."
Yeah.
And he starts to walk away and he says,
No,
Biff. Yeah. You leave her alone.
That's right.
And you're like, yes! From zero to hero.
Yeah. He did it.
Yeah. Which harkens back to when they're in the garage, when Lorraine comes in and they've covered the DeLorean up, and she's saying, don't you think a man should be strong and be able to protect the woman he loves?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. And Doc's over there like,
okay.
Yeah, like you're right, And that's what George does.
That's what he becomes.
I think that's what made her fall in love with him in this timeline, is that he can protect her.
Oh, I guess that, that word right there, in this timeline, that's really what the difference is instead of falling in love with him because she felt sorry for him with the Florence Nightingale thing, she fell in love with him because she admired him.
Yep.
With the whole White Knight approach to it. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a perfect way to sum it up.
That's heavy. There's that word again.
I don't remember saying heavy a lot. I don't think that one ever caught on.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to make that
you
one
were
happen.
like 4 in 85, though.
Yeah. 85 or 84? 85, yeah.
85, yeah. I wasn't even like... I was a twinkle in Dad's eye.
Yep. They were just happy, newlyweds at that point?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So what'd you think of the music in this?
Oh, great music. I can't think of a single miss. And you got Huey Lewis in the news in there. And you've got Huey Lewis in there.
Yes. Just too darn loud. And then looking at the other bands in the background, you're like, well, I bet they're going to be too loud,
they're going to be super loud.
Like, there's a punk rock band back there.
There's a straight up 80s hair band back there. Yeah. They're going to be super loud. Yeah, I thought the same thing.
come on, though. Like, the Pinheads has to be, like, the worst band name.
I thought about that. For the time. I think it's for the time. You got to consider the time. This is, like, mid-'80s. They're not punk. They're not glam. They're more of, I don't know, what'd you call them, powerhouse?
Yeah.
Maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, take that. I mean, they're playing the power of love.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So they're just rock. They're just pretty mainstream, average rock. And, Pinheads kind of fits, I think. Yeah. Maybe, yeah. I don't know what direction they're going with it. Are they talking about, like, bowling pins or, like, sewing pins?
We're just really into bowling. It's for the
Dick pins? Like, what kind of pins are we talking about here? That's the only thing. That's the only thing that's going to determine it for me because, then, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not such a great name.
So the bass player for that band, for the Pinheads, was actually Michael J. Fox's guitar instructor for the movie.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, Michael J. Fox didn't actually play the guitar on the Johnny B. Good song, but the guitar...
Next thing you're going to tell me he didn't sing it.
He didn't sing it either. Yeah. But his finger placement is correct. So that's what he was working with him with, was the finger placement on. Actually, I think that guy's the one that, if I remember right, is the one that actually is the one playing the recording on that.
Yeah.
He didn't sing either.
No, he didn't sing
but
it.
If this was shot today, they would have put money into teaching him how to sing for that.
Or
song.
hired somebody that could do it.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. There's too many people out there to not. Or whoever got hired for it would have said, yeah, I can do that, and then learned it before they had to go on. Enough to where they could fake it. Well, which he does a good job. I mean, I think like the finger placement and everything, that's great for all the up close shots. But I noticed a couple times where they're wide on the dance, you can see him in the background, and he's just kind of standing there. Like, he's not even really strumming at some points. He's just kind of like standing there, like waiting for his cue. And maybe, back in '85, you wouldn't really notice that. You're not going to see him. But, today, 2024, on my big TV in the media room, I can see him standing big in the background. So it makes a difference. But, it's just going to show you, like, little things like that. Like, these movies were made to be watched on the big screen. And then at home on your small screen. Like, once on the big screen. Well, they want you to see it multiple times on the big screen. And then at home on a small screen. So a lot of that background stuff tends to kind of get glossed. They're just like, it's just background. It's blurry. People aren't going to notice it in the theater as much. And then at home, they really won't notice it. They won't ever see it. But that's kind of like, now our TVs are getting bigger and clearer and crisper, and we're starting to see those little things in the background. I feel like in a lot of these older movies, you look in the background, and that's what I do now. Whenever I watch, especially like older movies, I'm looking in the background. I'm looking at like what's going on behind because I've already watched what's happening in the foreground. So many times. So now I'm looking at like, ooh, where's the Easter eggs, or ooh, who's not paying attention, or what kid's pointing at his crotch in the scene or whatever. For those at home who aren't in the know, that's a call forward to our Back to the Future 3 episode that'll be coming out in a few years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man, I remember like talking about seeing on the small screen. Like, I'm trying to think of when I first saw this movie. I know it had to be like on VHS. It was probably at our Aunt Kathy's house because they had every movie under the sun.
Maybe this one wasn't one that would. This was one of those movies that was hard to get on VHS. Like, they didn't release it that much. I remember I found a VHS box set, but you couldn't like go out and buy it. Like, you had to go find like a used one because they only sold it for a certain amount of time, and then it just wasn't on the shelves all the time because I think they were trying to keep it so that whenever they put it on cable, people would want to watch it on cable. It was like that with like Star Wars too, where they didn't have like, they had limited runs on the VHS releases and stuff like that. And this one was like one of those where I found the VHS box set and I was like, I'm buying this. And I bought it and watched it several times. But it's
I would watch it on TBS would play so much. They'd like, I remember they would do Dinner and a Movie. Do you remember that show?
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
and they do a little behind the scene things too. Yes.
And they did this. I think they did all three of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember watching it on there quite a bit. They aired it. They aired it a lot. Of course.
And then they did DVD on TV, which was like the same thing, but no dinner. Because I think the Dinner and a Movie one, they showed the movie, and then they didn't do like the behind the scenes stuff. They did the. They would make a meal with the movie. So like they'd have like some, like they would show like during like one of the first main commercial breaks, maybe mixing a cocktail or an appetizer, and then like the middle commercial break they would do like the main course, and then like one of the last commercial breaks maybe they'd do like a dessert or something like that. And but then they did DVD on TV, and that's where they started introducing all the commentaries or not commentaries, but like behind the scenes snippets and stuff like that. Yeah. I like that one better for sure. Like, at the time, I didn't care about cooking, but
yeah. I'd like to go back. I wish there was someplace. Maybe there is someplace to watch those old Dinner and a Movie episodes. But I don't know. That'd be so hard, I think, for them to license that, because they would have to, like, you couldn't watch the Dinner and a Movie, like the cooking scenes, without. It'd be weird to watch them without the movie.
I think that's kind of what we're doing here. Like somebody could just watch the movie and then watch this. Just pause the movie and then pick this up a little bit. And
that should, yeah.
I wonder if that would work as like a podcast. You record the podcast as you're watching the movie uninterrupted, and it's muted or what you can't hear it during the podcast, but like you're talking, like you're giving your commentary, and then somebody could watch the movie with your podcast running over it for commentary. I wonder if that could work. You'd have to have the right person doing it.
I think we could do that.
Do a commentary
this podcast
episode.
Takes Tokens live or something.
We get big enough. We'll offer that as like a bonus content thing. We'll rewatch it together, and we'll do commentary. Before the podcast. That'll be like a pre-show thing.
There we go. But yeah, I remember that. I think it was 2003. I think, or maybe 2004. They had the big they finally released this on DVD.
Yes.
The whole trilogy. I still have the box set over here. And I remember, now that is one I know our Aunt Kathy got me for Christmas, I think. But she had ordered it, and she had I was, seeing her for Christmas, and she handed me a card, and there was like a picture of it in there, and she's like, I've ordered it, but it hasn't come. And it took like 3 months to get there in the mail.
Really?
But I don't know what the deal was with it, but
man,
but oh my gosh, it was well worth the wait. And now they've I need to get them. They've released them on Blu-ray and stuff. And
I got the DVD one when it came out, and I was at Target the day it came out. I picked it up whenever it first opened because I wanted to be there for it. And then the one you're talking about there, the Blu-ray 4K one. I got that one whenever it came out as well. That's what I watched it on this time because I wanted no interruptions. My internet sometimes goes all wonky. Streaming it, and then I was being wanting to. I was taking on a little bit more than I should have, biting off more than I should have chewed. I sat down to watch the movie, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna finish up this movie about 6:30. Then we're gonna do family dinner. And then I can watch some behind the scenes stuff. I got a text message halfway through, and my wife wanted me to help her look something up. She's having a problem with something. So I paused the movie and I go in and look all that up. And then by the time I got back into it, I was like, she's gonna be home in 10 minutes, and then we're gonna do dinner. So I'll just. And then I ended up just streaming the rest of it downstairs while we ate dinner. I streamed it this time. It was on Netflix. I'm like, that's easier than me going over to my DVD cabinet and pulling it out.
Like, I'll just
You let
how
the
sad
streamers
is that,
win again.
right? I know. How sad is it?
Yeah,
But
but I never got to go back and watch all the special behind the scenes stuff that I want. And they've got the Power of Love music video on there. I was like, I'm gonna watch that. Maybe they'll do like see Doc Brown dancing or something. I don't know, but that'll be fun. And there's like a whole bunch of like other stuff. But I didn't.
Have you watched the Back in Time video? Because that they had that song, Back in Time.
Yeah. No, I haven't.
So that video it's got Christopher Lloyd in it. It doesn't have Michael J. Fox, but it's got Christopher Lloyd. And it's
Are they
it's
dancing
pretty,
in Times Square?
I have no idea. I don't remember. It's pretty cheesy though. But I remember like he pulls up to a concert that Huey Lewis and the News are playing, headlining.
Is he in a DeLorean?
He's in the DeLorean. Yeah, he pulls up in the DeLorean. And
the DeLorean or a DeLorean?
The DeLorean. Yeah, like he I don't remember if it's at the beginning or the end of the video. He time travels out of there. But there's some girls around there, and he's like, "What's going on here?" And they're like, "It's rock and roll." It's very 80s. But yeah, it's worth watching.
All right. Let's go check that out. So whenever somebody says the time machine, is this the thing? Do you think of the DeLorean time machine?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No, nothing else comes to mind.
Okay. DeLorean comes first. Second is H.G.
How
Wells.
distant is second?
Far distant.
All right.
What is that? H.G. Wells. Is it the time machine?
Yeah, the time machine.
H.G. Wells. And it's just that stationary thing where the guy pulls a lever and he
a little
travels
spinning
through time.
wheel in the background.
Yep.
Yeah.
That comes in like a far second. But, DeLorean, man, no, hands down. What an ingenious idea to use that.
Oh, it's a stainless steel construction.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was trying to quote that, but all of a sudden I'm forgetting because he gets interrupted in the middle of that, and then he's like, "Watch out!" And then Einstein comes speeding through there. Which that's one thing that's not consistent in the movie. Like when Marty first goes back, he's running from the Libyans. Let's see if you bastards can do 90. And he takes.
Does he
off.
know he's about to go back in time?
I think he's forgotten at that point. He's just trying to get away from being... Because, they pulled out a rocket launcher. Yeah. And he's like, okay. Let's get... His reaction that whole time, everything, he keeps I don't want to say it on here because it's a family show. But he keeps saying, the S word. And he sees it and he's like, holy! That's the thing. Michael J. Fox, I said it already, but he just brings such a comedic edge to it. Just the way he delivers things is so funny.
Perfect. For being half asleep, it's perfect delivery.
Yes.
And I only asked, did he know it was going to go back in time? Because whenever he says, let's see if you can do 90, he grips the steering wheel and kind of flinches, and then he goes right into the Fox photo thing and disappears.
Yeah, well, because it's starting to light up at that point.
So he's got to know. He's got to know what's coming.
Yeah.
Because he's going right at the Fox photo thing.
Yeah.
And then the Libyans hit it and they flip it sideways. Which, then they flip it sideways. Fast forward to the end of the movie. He comes rolling down the hill, runs over to Doc.
They don't.
The car didn't explode. No. There was they just rolled on its side. They could have easily gotten up and continued their chase. To them, nothing happened. He went from he just ran over to Doc. We don't hear anything else about the Libyans. It wasn't a violent car wreck.
I don't know. I could see the driver, okay, but I could see the guy that was not buckled in.
Yeah, he might not be doing
there
okay.
And he could hit his head or something. But
there might be two of him now.
Yeah, yeah. Part of him's But yeah, he when he hits that, when he goes back to Peabody's farm, and of course it was Twin Pine Mall.
Yes.
And then it turns to Lone Pine Mall because he hits
that might be my favorite gag in the whole movie is Lone Pine Mall at the end. That's just fantastic. And I want to know, what was his theory about breeding pine trees that was so weird?
Doc, it was so funny. This strange idea about breeding pine trees.
Yes.
And that delivery is great too. It's just that he just shakes it off.
Because he's got two of them in like a little fenced-in area by his, which is why it's called like Twin Pines or whatever.
Yeah.
So I just that's one question that I would like answered. What was his theory on breeding pine trees? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I like how it lands perfectly though, so that whenever they open up the barn door, it's angled so it does look like almost like a saucer.
But that's the thing. That's what I was getting at. So there's a little bit of inconsistency there. When the first time, like when Einstein comes back, there's flames where the wheels are at, right?
Yeah.
And the DeLorean is iced over. When Marty first travels back to 55, there's no flames, and the DeLorean doesn't look, maybe it's a little bit iced over, but it doesn't look like it did the first time.
Well, you see, so I'm going to put on my professor cap here.
Yeah.
We're going to have a chemistry lesson.
Yeah.
The way it works is when asphalt and rubber meet, it creates fire.
Oh, okay.
And just instantly. Like that's just that's movie physics 101. Rubber, asphalt, you get fire. If you're going 88, you got to be going 88. If you're going anything less, it doesn't do it.
Exactly 88. Yeah.
But if you're going exactly 88, you get fire. But you got to have lightning in there too. It's got to have three.
Yeah.
That's the triangle of flamey tires.
Yeah. So what about the flame in the sky at the end of 2?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So again, we can poke holes in this plot, but it's still a fantastic movie, doesn't it?
Is. I always thought like the trail leading off was a 9-9, like he went back to like 1899 or something like that.
They had the directors had so many letters written to them about that. Like, what's the 9-9? And they I think in the commentary they're like, we wish we had done something else because that didn't mean anything. It was just a design of like how it, because the DeLorean's flipped, so
they couldn't just show straight lines. It just wouldn't make any sense. Yeah. But they had to show something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so when he's on Peabody's farm, and they call him Old Man Peabody, so like I'm assuming the kids are his grandkids.
They call him Pa.
Yeah,
which is like,
so like I was a little bit confused there.
I don't know.
That's not an airplane.
Maybe he had kids late in life. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, I mean that could be. But when Marty steps out of the barn, his reaction,
he's taking human form.
But when he gets shot, that bullet hits beside him and busts open the side of the barn. He like just
stumbles.
Again, it's Michael J. Fox being Michael J. Fox. He just kind of like, he doesn't say anything. He just stumbles back. I was laughing so hard at that because he's just, I don't know. I just think his reaction is so
great
funny.
pratfall.
Yeah.
And it did like, the radiation suit was perfect for like, it looked like, especially for like the 50s, like you take it back to the 50s, it looks like a spacesuit for the 50s, like what they would imagine a spacesuit would look. Because they don't have spacesuits back then. We didn't land on the moon until 69, so they don't know what spacesuits look like. I don't even think we were sending people up in space in 55, were we? At that point yet? I don't think it was until late 50s when the first person went up. I think we were sending up satellites still, but so, and it just fit the sci-fi trope perfectly. And then whenever it opens up, I could totally see
the doors on the DeLorean and everything.
Doors on the DeLorean, yep.
Mm-hmm.
It all just perfectly sci-fi. Yeah. And another reason why the DeLorean lurks. If they would have done that with like a Toyota, and then he crash lands it in the barn, they would just be like, oh, that's a funny looking car. But because it's a DeLorean with the stainless steel and everything, looks like a spaceship, especially from that weird angle. It's all angular and everything. If they built it today, and they did it out of like a Cybertruck, it would look, you take that back 20 years, people would be like, what is that spaceship thing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. One thing that bothers me about this movie.
Okay.
In 1985, it takes place, well, the beginning takes place on a Friday, but the movie or when they come back or whatever, when they're doing all the stuff at night with the DeLorean, the majority of it takes place on Saturday, October 26th. Mm-hmm. How close is that to Halloween? There are no Halloween decorations anywhere around Hill Valley.
That is very true. Well, I mean, 1950. Well, Halloween was big in the 50s.
I'm talking about 85.
Well, yeah, 85.
They go back to November 5th, 55. So Halloween's done.
Yeah.
But when they're in 85, it's October 26th.
Yeah.
Where's all the Halloween stuff?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing at all. Like it didn't even exist. That's a weird date for them to pick. Then they should have moved that around a little bit.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say, how did they know the exact second that the lightning bolt was supposed to hit the clock tower? Because they only knew the minute.
Doc got that wrong.
Yeah.
Even though, he got everything right, but if Marty would have gunned it, if the car hadn't just died and Marty would have gunned it when that alarm clock went off, he would have been too early.
Yeah. And how did he know? Like, I don't understand. That one bugs me too. Like, that he could figure out the math to know that the car would hit the hook because you got to hit it at the exact right, millisecond. Like, there is absolutely no room for error. Mm-mm. And if Marty hits the gas with 10 more pounds of force than he's anticipating, or 10 less pounds of force than he's anticipating, that's fractions of a second that he loses on acceleration. That makes a difference.
It does, sure. Absolutely.
That's my biggest nitpick with it. Mm-hmm. But I can let it go because it's the hero moment and we got to have it.
It is well, I don't want to say this, but I will say it. Name a more iconic scene. Maybe you can't, but that is a very iconic scene of him and Doc's and then he gets electrocuted and zoom, he's gone. And then that music, the score, we've talked about the music, but the score is just every time I hear it, I know this is so stupid, but it just it
pumps you up.
Just gives me so much emotion. Just like dun, 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 dun. And then Doc is just dancing. He's like, man. When I tell you this movie is my favorite movie, it hits me on so many levels. And I legitimately get sad when I watch this because I want to so badly go and have adventures with Doc and Marty. I don't want to replace one of them. I want to go with them.
Be the third wheel.
And be
There's
the
only
third
two
wheel,
seats in the DeLorean.
I can sit in the middle or something. I don't know. It's just there's something about this movie that is, hey, that's it. Yeah. It's just, it's so, I don't know, man. It just, it's so good for me. It's so good. And I just can't, nothing else will compare.
So, in the beginning of the film, whenever he's hanging out with Doc and he's talking to Doc, does Doc have memories of meeting Marty in 55? Or does he not have the memories until after the time traveling?
I don't think he does till after the time traveling. The reason I say is because of the change with the mall.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So we're looking at the origin of the timeline.
Yep.
Before, but yeah.
How hard would that be, though? Just imagine, put yourself in Doc's shoes. How hard would that be? You meet Marty, and they've probably known each other for a year or two, right? And
a few years, I think, at this point.
Yeah, and you've waited 30 years to see Marty again, but you can't tell him what's going to happen, because if he would tell him anything that's going to happen, then something may change, and Marty would have not went back to 55.
Yep.
And I guess Doc kind of broke that rule because he ended up reading the letter that Marty wrote about getting shot. But I think that was because
Which
Marty,
is why he then let him go through everything to then go back to 55 so that he could write the letter so that he wouldn't get shot.
Yep.
By okay, we're gonna call it the Omni line. We're on the Omni line. This is the first iteration. We have not, set with Doc through his 30 years after, which would be the second line, which is where Doc would have the memories.
Yeah.
And know all these things. But yeah, he got the lid on it. Although I always thought that whenever he got shocked, that created a bit of a memory gap for him. And he forgot about the events that had just occurred.
But he did get up and he was like dancing after that. Cause he's jumping through the streets. He's like, excited that it worked, You
don't suffer the effects of a concussion until you go to bed later that night.
Well,
maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
That was always my theory on it, is why he didn't remember it.
Yeah.
But I didn't have much time travel knowledge at the time.
Who does? Did you know that this movie was originally pitched to Disney?
Oh, really? I can see that.
And Disney was like all on board until they got to the point in the script where Lorraine and Marty are kissing, and they're like, we don't like a mother and son.
I don't blame him. That's the weirdest thing in this whole movie. It's my least favorite part of the whole movie.
Well, it's weird for them too. Like Marty doesn't want to do that. Yeah. And of course Lorraine, if Lorraine
she didn't
knew,
know any better,
she wouldn't. Yeah. But
which
they explain it.
There was a moment.
It's like kissing my brother.
Well, yeah, there was that. But there was a moment this time watching it where Doc Brown mentions the Florence Nightingale syndrome, and that's why her mother and father fell in love for the first time. Mm-hmm. And then that's what she's feeling for him. And I'm like, oh, that makes so much more sense than she's just got like the hots for this guy in like the most extreme way. Oh, it's the whole Florence Nightingale thing. So whenever
such a dream. Yeah,
such a dream. Whenever George comes in and like hits Biff, it just like it takes it out of her, and she's only got eyes for him from there on out.
Yeah.
But, that whole thing was just so weird. It was so weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I don't know that you could write it any other way and still hit it the same way. Like I don't think you could take it out, but at the same point, it's probably my least favorite plot point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I watch it now, even watching it last night, I try to think of it that way too, because I think of it like how is Marty like? I've never really, when I was younger watching this, like, yeah, that's his mom, whatever, like that's how the movie, but it didn't really strike me as that's his mother, because
it was like 10-year-old.
I thought Leah Thompson was.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I always thought Leah Thompson was an attractive lady.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she's good looking or whatever. But I'm watching it now as an adult. I watch it and I'm like sitting there like putting myself in Marty's shoes and being like, yeah, Mom, I love you to death. But if I was in that situation, like,
I'm keeping
it would
my
be
distance.
so weird. And it's like, I don't love you that way.
I wonder what's going through. What's Bob Gale's relationship with his mom like?
Right.
Anyway, so Doc says whenever he's loading up Einstein, and Einstein comes back, or right before he goes, when he comes back, he says Einstein's the first
world's first time traveler.
World's first time traveler. Yeah, that's right. But whenever there's two things. Whenever he calls up Doc in the beginning, and he says, the alarms start going off on all the clocks. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's good. They're all, 25 minutes late or whatever. And the clocks are going off at 8, but it should be 8:25. Is that because Doc had time traveled 25 minutes?
No, I think he was working on getting his clock synced.
To what?
That's well, he had to sync the stopwatches up and everything for that experiment. I think he was working on just seeing how much. I don't know, like
because they're off by 25 minutes.
Up. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but then Marty's late for school because the clocks are actually 25 minutes slow. I don't know. That one I always wondered, like, what is that? Why were his clocks 25 minutes slow? What did that have to do with anything? But then, like, because his clock said 8:25 or whatever. I don't know. I always thought it was kind of weird that part didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I didn't quite understand what's going on with the clocks and everything.
Yeah.
And then later, whenever he's preparing the car for after Einstein, he's like, I'm about to go back in time. He goes to load up more of the plutonium, right? He cracks open the case. There's already 2 of the plutonium things that are depleted. The one that Einstein just used and another one.
Oh.
And he pulls out a third. So
unless
I think he used it. Or maybe he sent the stopwatch.
Maybe.
Through time.
I bet he would have had, because I don't think he would have sent Einstein through time if he hadn't tested it on something else first.
Maybe it was a watch or something he tested it on first.
Because I can't see him
I didn't know if
maybe
he
his
did
dog.
it.
Yeah.
If he sent himself is what I was thinking. Maybe he went the first time. But, that was just kind of like, that's something that's always kind of, I can't quite wrap my head around, like, what the whole, like, the clocks are 25 minutes late means.
Yeah, I think it was really more, to me, if I'm looking at it at face value, it was more of a plot point in the movie to just have Marty be late so he could run into Strickland and they could
establish that character,
and that his father was a slacker, and all this.
Which calls George a slacker, and I'm like, George is getting picked on by these other kids. You're the slacker. Yeah. You're being a horrible principal.
Yes, terrible. Like, he pulls when they're kicking him, he pulls the sign off, and he shows him. He's like, slacker, what are you doing?
That's not slacker.
No.
You don't know what a slacker is.
That's a bunch of kids being jerks.
Yes. They're the slackers.
Yes, yeah.
That one.
But did you notice the little nod to the end of the movie in that clock scene in the beginning? When they're panning through.
Oh, yeah, and he's hanging off the guy's hanging off the clock. Yeah.
And then apparently Doc is also a Denver Broncos fan because there's a Denver Broncos
one,
clock
which they're in California. So where did he get the Denver Broncos one from? And they've lived there. They've been there, since they were the Von Browns and they got to America or whatever.
Yeah.
But I wonder where he's a Denver Broncos fan, or maybe he just like picked it up at a garage sale.
I'm sure. I mean,
because he had so many clocks.
Yeah, I can't envision him being. Well, I don't know, because he does say, like, when he's going back, when he's going to the future, he's like, I'll also get to see who wins the next 25 or 30 World Series or something.
That's true. Yeah.
So maybe he is a sports fan too.
Maybe a sports nut. Yeah. I bet he could. I bet he enjoys a game or two here every now and then.
Yeah.
I mean, like, him and Marty are hanging out before all this, and he builds that giant speaker array for Marty.
Oh yeah.
So he's clearly like, down for a good time. Like, he's jamming out with Marty, or at least letting Marty jam out near him. He's probably like toiling away in his lab. Marty's jamming out, and he's probably enjoying it.
Yeah.
Or taking scientific measurements. I don't know.
That scene when Marty first shows up to the door in 55, and he's got that thing on his head, and he brings him in, and he's like, not a word.
Don't tell me.
You're here collecting money for the Youth Sailors Auxiliary. And Marty's like, no, no, nothing, not a word now.
Do we ever find out why Joey gets locked up in jail? Jailbird Joey? He's just always in jail. He
just likes being in there so much.
All right.
He cries every time we take him out of there. Just leave him in there all the time. Get used to these bars.
So whenever he goes back in time and he fixes the timeline and everything, do you think Joey still goes to jail?
I don't know.
Maybe that solves all the problem.
You know, his siblings are obviously, doing better, although they're still living at home. Like Dave has an office job.
He's got an office job, but he's living at home.
Yeah.
I was like, what is that about?
But I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know how much older he is. But.
Here's my theory with Jailbird Joey. I think Joey took the fall for Biff on something. Or Biff got him mixed up in something. There, though.
But yeah, that could be, I guess.
Well, he'd only be 10, 15, maybe 5 or 10 years younger. Cause he was,
I guess. Yeah.
He was just a little kid in the beginning of 55. Yeah. He could have been like, some little punk running around. And then, Biff's like, hey, I got an idea for making a quick buck. All you got to do is smuggle this thing across whatever. And, give me the briefcase or whatever. And,
Is Biff really a criminal mastermind, though? Like, I don't see Biff is more of just this bully that,
I don't think he's a criminal mastermind, but I don't think he's on the up and up either.
Yeah.
He's definitely, he's not even doing his own work. He's definitely doing some under the table dealings. He's getting caught up in some stuff.
Yeah.
If he wasn't taken down by, George in 55, I feel like stuff would have caught up to him in a good 10, 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
And he'd be right there with Joey. And probably George would go down with him.
Yeah, probably so. I mean, well
we never know. We don't get to see that future. I wonder what that future would have been like if Doc would have just went to 2015 originally.
Yeah.
Well.
So I was going to mention this, a couple years ago here in town that I live in, lightning struck our courthouse.
Really?
Yep. And there were all over Facebook, there was all this Back to the Future stuff. And
did it happen in 2015?
What's that?
Did it happen in 2015?
I think it was like 17 or 18.
Okay.
But we do have like street lights that are parallel to each other, on either side of the street. And I'm like, I could totally see a cable being placed right there. And there's that long road on the east side of the square that goes all the way down to like the YMCA that somebody totally could have just taken off from that point. That's like a good 2.5 miles, maybe 2 miles to get up to the courthouse. So I don't know, but it was interesting. Yeah. And it stopped the clock and everything. It was, there was a lot of jokes around town.
You got to start making friends with the local inventor. So if you ever get stuck in a time paradox, you know who to go to.
Yes. Yeah. Remember that date.
Speaking of the square, Biff goes after Marty after he hits him. And he's driving his car and just tearing her ass around the square, drives over the hedges, slams into the side of the manure truck. How come he wasn't like at least ticketed? Nothing. No trouble came his way for that at all. Maybe that's the deal. Maybe his dad is actually like the mayor at the time or something.
Maybe.
Or in some high power position and he's just like, I don't know. I just felt like, there would have been consequences for that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, but he blames it all on Marty. He caused $300 damage to my car.
You were trying to kill him.
You were literally trying to kill Marty.
Yes.
And now you're mad because
he got out of the way.
You didn't succeed. Yeah, exactly.
How dare he move out of the way of the front of my moving vehicle?
If he wouldn't have moved out of the way, he would have killed Marty, but he still would have hit that manure truck.
He still would have, yeah, absolutely.
So, still would have caused $300 damage to his car.
But, he'd have Marty pinned between them, so.
Yeah. That courthouse, though, so I think we've talked about this in another episode, but that's the Universal lot.
Yeah.
And that
used in
courthouse,
Jaws.
Jaws. They used it in Gremlins. It
Yep.
was used in the Twilight Zone. There are so many movies that and television series that's been used in. And like we'll be watching, Mindy and I'll be watching stuff sometimes, and I'll be like, oh, that's the Universal lot.
Yep.
She's like, how do you know that? I'm like, how do I know
Clock tower.
that? Yeah.
Do I need to explain myself?
Yeah. I want to go visit it sometime. It'd be fun to go see that. I know part of it burnt down. I don't know if they've rebuilt it or not.
Oh, I'm sure if they haven't, they will.
Yeah.
It's too iconic to not.
Yeah.
So how did Doc Brown's family get all their money? We never know that, do we?
I don't think we ever do.
He says they immigrant over during like World War II or something like that, or World War I.
Something like that. Yeah.
And they're the Von Browns, and then they become the Browns. Do they? I guess maybe they came over with a bunch of money. Von Browns, would that make them Austrian? Maybe?
I think so, because in The Sound of Music, they were the Von Brauns.
Von
I think
Trapps?
in the sound, Von Trapps, was that it?
I think so.
Okay, Sound of Music, yeah.
Yeah, so
the Von, maybe they're Austrian.
yeah, somewhere in there, Swedish Alps or something like that.
But I could see him trying to get away from, maybe between World War I and World War II. You've got the Nazi regime kind of getting big, and like,
we gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
Come on, we're going back to America.
Going to California.
Yes. It's just his family just seemed to have a lot of money, and until he spent it all trying to invent time travel.
Yeah,
which he succeeded at. So
he did. Yeah, he finally. You feel so good for him in that scene when Marty's showing him the DeLorean. It's behind that billboard for the Lion Estates, and he's like, I finally invented something that works.
Yeah, I want to know what all his failed ones were before that too.
I know.
Other than trying to read people's minds.
Yeah. Yeah. That scene when Lorraine comes into the garage. That's the only scene that her and Christopher Lloyd have together.
Yeah.
It's so weird to me. Like everything really like. I don't even think George has a scene with.
Actually,
with
she's got another scene with him. Whenever,
does she?
Whenever, what was it? Whenever they were in the school, and he's with him in the school, and they run into him in the hallway.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
And then she does that whole like, "Oh, isn't he a dream?" as she's walking by.
Calvin.
Yeah. It's what's written in your underwear. What?
Yeah. Never seen anybody with purple underwear before.
Well, you got any final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
I'm glad we talked about this movie. It's just it is peak cinema for me. It's peak storytelling, and again, I know it's not perfect, but it's perfect to me, and I love it. Nothing will ever compare to it. Nothing has before, nothing will after. I've got my Funko Pop Back to the Future
yes.
shirt
I was looking
on
for a Back to the Future shirt for the episode. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I don't have one anymore. I had a couple, and I don't have them anymore.
Yeah.
So I had to look.
And I've got all my
one.
Pops. I don't have them behind the camera because I don't have any place to sit them behind me. But all my Funko Pops, and I've got to. Well, I'll have to bring this out when we do Back to the Future 3. I have a railroad spike and soil in the shadow box that came from the location where they shot the train scene.
Nice.
In that movie. Yeah. So that's. When I say this is like my favorite series, this is it. Yeah. So you got any final thoughts on it?
Nah, nothing worth touching up on. I guess most movies they wind down whenever they conclude, wrap up storylines, and all the little plot points and everything. This is probably one of the first movies I remember seeing that went out at 88 miles an hour. So,
well,
I enjoyed it.
They did that as a joke. Like, they had no intention to make a sequel to this, but it did so well that they decided to do a sequel. And then they had to just run with, well, something's got to be done about their kids. So
Yep. That's perfect. That was a great sequel, too.
Yeah.
We'll be back for the sequel.
We will.
Absolutely. Well, before we wrap up, I just want to remind everybody out there listening, if you love This Podcast Takes Tokens, you can get a free sticker. Show your love for the podcast and be one of the first 50 to snag an exclusive sticker. Here's how. Listen, tune into any episode on the podcast, review, leave a written review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify, which I was thinking about this. I don't know if Spotify allows for written reviews anymore. I think they went to just star-based system.
I think they did.
Yeah, so you might have to leave it. Well, leave us a stars. I don't know. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Written review wherever you can. Capture your review with a screenshot. Then send us an email of that screenshot with your mailing address to thispodcasttakestokens@gmail.com. This will be in the show notes. And we'll send you a sticker. Absolutely free. Snail mail, but, it'll get there.
Yeah.
And if you want 2 stickers, leave a review on both platforms. Send us screenshots for both. Act fast. This offer ends December 31st, 2024. That's the end of this year. And email us as soon as you post your review to ensure that you are the one that snags credit for it. Remember, 1 sticker per unique review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Comments on other platforms like Instagram and YouTube do not count. Remember, This Podcast Takes Tokens. So get listening, reviewing, and sticker collecting. That's right.
These are good looking stickers.
Yes. There are 5 unique designs, and we will send you one at random, or 2, or whatever your review count is.
Yeah.
So with that, be kind and rewind. Oh, next week.
Yeah, what are we doing next week?
Next week, that's right. We're getting to the spooky season. Halloween's upon us. Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to start diving into some Halloween stuff. So I want to, and me and my son Bruce went about a week or so ago and watched Beetlejuice. So I think we're going to do Beetlejuice, the original Juice, next week. So join us for Beetlejuice, the original, next week.
Try to say it 3 times.
Maybe we will. We'll see what happens. All right. We'll see you on the second.
This Podcast Takes Tokens is a Clay Street production.
All right, so back to our cold open question. I had asked you at the beginning of the episode if you could travel to any point, any period in time, what would it be? Now, the stipulations on that were that you only get 1 travel there and then 1 return home, so you can't, you can't go multiple places. So you got to pick 1 place, and then you have your survival is guaranteed. So you could go to like World War II in the middle of the Battle of Okinawa or something, and you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be able to come back. So.
But you age relative to the time you experience.
Yes, you do. So if you go and you're there for 5 years, when you come back, even if you're going to come back to the point you left, so it'll be like you never left, but you'll have aged 5 years.
All right, and then one more question.
Mm-hmm.
Can I take anything with me? Do I have an inventory limit going either direction?
Let's just say you are, for the sake of this show, you're taking the DeLorean, so whatever you can fit in that.
Excellent.
Yep.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going 100 years into the future, and I'm going to do some studying, and I'm going to come back with some copious notes and have a good rest of my life.
Okay, Biff. Yeah, that's probably not a bad idea.
I already know what happened in the past.
Yeah, I know, but you get to experience it, though, if you travel back there.
No, I think going into the future, I go about 100 years in the future. I can maybe not necessarily study myself, but just general world events and stock market and all these other things. Yeah. Get a little peace of mind that things are going to work out generally for, the world as a whole. And
unless they don't,
in which case I got a lot of homework I got to do. Yeah. But, yeah. And then I come back, and whenever things start getting crazy, I can be like, yeah, it'll work out.
Yeah.
And rest assured in my comfort and luxurious life going forward.
Yeah.
Peace of mind, that's what I'm getting.
Yeah. Well, you can't put a price on that, can you?
Nope. How about you? Where are you going? Clearly you're going back.
I'm going back to the Old West.
Wow.
Doc Brown, so this is his favorite historical time period, and it really is mine. Like, I am a sucker for any, Westerns, or I don't know if you ever saw that, there's that show Godless on, it was a little miniseries on Netflix. Oh, that's so good. And it's, just all those, I don't know, I'd like to go back and just live for a little bit.
Of Westerns, I added Tombstone to our list this week because I remembered that one.
Oh, yeah.
But which I don't think, if I remember my, what I've learned, I don't think the Old West is quite as Old Westy as movies would have it made out to be.
Probably not. No. But it'd be interesting to go back and see. Like, I would like to see the technology. I mean, I know the technology, but I'd like to get on a train. I mean, so I'm saying this. I've been on an old train. Like, we took a trip to South Dakota. We were on one of those old trains that they had restored. But I would like to go back to a time period where that or a carriage or a horse or you're walking. And this is how you're getting places. And I'd like to see those old, just those old gold rush towns, and I don't know, maybe even be a marshal or something and go around and try.
How long are you going to spend in the Old West?
Oh man, 50 years.
50 years?
I don't know.
You're going to come back to your family an old man.
Yeah. I don't know. It'd be fun though.
It'd take you like 5 years to get down the street anyways. Like,
it probably would.
You want to go to Kansas City? That's like a year trip.
Yeah. I'm going to the Old West. That's what I'm doing.
All right. I've seen Westworld. I'm good.
Accuracy. Which I say that, and half the stuff I've watched is probably not historically accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, Cowboys and Aliens was accurate, right?
That was fun. I'm with you. I like a good Western. Like, what's one of the ones I've seen recently that was really good? I don't know. Yeah, I like a good Western. I think Westworld is probably the most recent one I've seen.
Yeah.
I can't really.
You should watch Godless.
Godless?
It's good.
Right.
It's like
what's that
like
on?
eight episodes. It's on Netflix. It's like 8 episodes. Okay. It's got I can't remember his name now all of a sudden. He was in Dumb and Dumber with Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Why can't I
Jeff
think of his name?
Bridges. No.
Jeff Daniels. Jeff Daniels is in it. He's a villain in it, and he's a very good villain in it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I could watch it. Yeah, I've been wanting to go back and watch Deadwood. I've never seen Deadwood. I heard that was really good.
Yeah, so did I. Yeah, I haven't watched that one yet. I need to check that out too.
That's Western. HBO, Prime HBO.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that might be my next stop. I don't know. I'm in the middle of I'm still catching up on all the. What are they? Walking Dead spinoffs.
Oh, yeah.
Which I just watched the Ones Who Live spinoff that they did. Mm-hmm. Your boy Terry Quinn was in that one.
Huh.
Yeah. So something to look forward to whenever you get caught up.
Yeah.
But anyways, we got a couple of listener reviews.
We do.
No, comments. These are comments. These are not reviews. We haven't gotten any of those yet. Looking forward to yours, though.
Yeah.
Talking to you, Bill. Yes, we got a few comments on YouTube videos. YouTube's doing good. Pretty happy with what's going on over there. Raiders of the Lost Ark episode. Our boy Wilford81 commented, Last Crusade is my favorite indie film, followed closely by Raiders. I love the comedic bits with Dad and quote-unquote Junior in The Crusade. Temple of Doom, which terrified me as a kid, and is definitely not as good as the other two just mentioned, does have an incredible rope bridge scene. Crystal Skull loses me with when Mutt started swinging from the vines like a monkey, and Dial of Destiny was solid and provided a fitting end for Indy. As for what prop I would keep, for the sake of originality, I'm going to go with the giant ball from Raiders, though my wife would leave me if she saw that thing in our backyard. Which I proposed. Water feature. That giant ball, like you get like a little fountain of water going, and you stick the giant ball on it, and it just floats on top of that water, and you're just kind of sitting there like rolling. She'd love it, I'm telling you. Women love a good water feature.
I don't know if it's...
But yeah, I gotta agree with you for the most part there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. All right. Yeah, Mutt swinging on the vines like a monkey.
Yeah,
that was a little rough. That whole movie was. I think the thing that did it for me was just the first thing in that movie.
With
that
the
did it for
refrigerator and the...
That didn't bother me as much.
Oh,
like, I mean, yeah, it's like it's campy and it's goofy, and now that everybody's pointed it out, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's a bit much for Indiana Jones. Like, if this was any other movie, I could see people letting it slide a bit more, but because it's Indiana Jones, which is rooted in more realism, then yeah, like that's a bit much. But that wasn't the first thing that got to me. The first thing that really bothered me was just the bad CGI in general. Like everything that was CGI'd just looked awful. It didn't look great. It looked very, I don't know, of the time. Like the CGI of the time was very like, we're trying a lot of different things and we just haven't figured it out yet. And that's how that was for me. I wish we could erase Crystal Skull. I guess we needed it so we could get Dial of Destiny, I suppose.
Yeah. I think Harrison Ford probably wishes that we could erase Crystal Skull.
Anyways, moving on. Our Metal Gear Solid episode. Wilford81 commented again. He says, I have never played Metal Gear. I have never played a Metal Gear game, but the excitement and memories the two of you have made me think I've missed out on something special. So my question is Metal Gear Solid 1 the game to play if you've never played anything in the series? Are the NES Metal Gear Solids any good? I can't remember if you mentioned these or not. Thanks, guys. Yeah, definitely. Metal Gear Solid 1 for the PlayStation. Yes. That's the one to start with. That is the gold standard for Metal Gear Solid. I think that's just kind of like... But the NES games, if memory serves, it's been a while since I played them, were challenging. But I remember they had a bit of a story to them. They had some decent story to them. So if you're up for a old school 8-bit game with some challenge to it, it's a decent game. But I would play Metal Gear Solid 1 first, the PlayStation 1, and then you can go back and play those.
We say the PlayStation 1. It was originally out on PlayStation, but
you can get it on anything now.
You can get it on Switch now. You can get it on PlayStation. You can get it on Xbox.
Yeah.
Probably get it on Steam. I'm sure it's on PC. So, but yeah, the original Metal Gear Solid, that is what you need to go to first. Yeah.
I don't know that it's on PC. I don't think it's ever been on PC.
Is it not on PC? Okay.
I don't think any of the Metal Gear games have ever been on PC.
Maybe not officially.
Console. Well, yeah, not officially.
Not officially on PC.
There are ways.
Yeah. But we're not that kind of podcast.
No.
So.
Our most recent episode, Toys in the Attic, where we had on friend of the show, Steven from Best Little Toy Museum in Texas. It's a fun episode. There's our last, well, that would be a few episodes back now. Let's see here. We got a comment from Josh Kraus, 392. Kraus, 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 right? Josh Kraus.
Kraus. Yep.
392. The coolest looking action figures and statuettes when I was a kid were the ones centered on for adults to collect. Yeah, that's 100%. Like the adult collectible toys look hands down amazing. And if they weren't so damn expensive, I'd probably have more of them.
They knew. Well, they know they can put the detail into them because with a child's toy, unless it's these new throwbacks of these Star Wars toys that they're remaking, and they're putting them out for $15 a piece. With the kids' toys, they expect them to not last.
Yeah.
These adult ones, you're going to put it on a shelf, and that's where it's going to sit. And it's going to have a lot of detail to it, and it's going to look really nice. And
plenty of articulation. Yep. But definitely just made to look at. I have made the mistake early on letting my son have these toys, and let me tell you, they are not for playing for. Mm-hmm. They do not hold up well to being played with.
Yes.
It also could just be the way my son plays with toys.
That's a boy.
He's all the Legos are the Lego minifigures, every one of them that we have, but it's not part of a diorama he set up of Legos. Hands, legs, heads, arms are all separated down to the hands from the arms, and all these fully articulating action figures have the removable hands and feet and heads, so you can swap them out. None of them have their hands, feet, or heads on them. Some of them are even missing other limbs because they've just been pulled apart, thinking that those come off too. So yes, they are not made for kids, but they are definitely the ones you want. They look amazing. Absolutely. Well, that's it. That's all of our listener comments. Join us next week. We'll be doing Beetlejuice.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening.
Yep. Thanks for being here. See y'all around next time.
See ya.